And we are live. Everyone, a warm welcome here this morning to the audience. A warm welcome to our speakers here today. Welcome to the webinar commissioned by the Embassy of the Netherlands in France. My name is Anouk Soet. I am Business Director of the Netherlands Business Council in France. Today, we're going to talk about online business in an ever-changing environment. And we're going to, of course, talk about e-commerce in France. I think we have lots to talk about today. So allow me to introduce you to Maarten de Bruyne, President of the Netherlands Business Council. Maarten, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. And I will kick it effectively off. You don't have to bear very long with me. I will just share my screen as we speak. Give me 1 second and we're coming through. There we go. I hope you all see my screen. So today we're organizing the webinar around e-commerce in France. So how to do business over the internet in France. We are very excited to actually drive this together with 3 partners. Carlara lawyers who accompanied the Bijenkof to get to France and to set up their e-commerce and make it running. Together with as well Booking.com, who is a very experienced emblematic provider of services through the internet, in this specific case, travel services. So we're very excited to have them here and to explain a little bit how they are operating in France and what we have to take care of. So the first thing that I actually want to move to is just a few stats. So let's start also, and I think you should have a poll, Anouk, that you're publishing as we speak. Just a few numbers that I would like you to know. So the first one is France is the 6th biggest e-commerce market worldwide on the B2c, so the direct purchases of consumers, and runs about 115 billion euros over 1.8 billion transactions. That's moving up a lot, right? So a growth of anywhere between 8 to 10% a year. And of course, 2020 was a bit of an awkward year with a lot of people working from home. So therefore, that number has even increased even more. It represents about 13 to 14% of total commerce. Over the year of 2020, a total in France of 17,400 websites were added to a total of getting to 120,000 e-commerce websites, with the average purchasing basket of 61 euros, up 2 euros from 2019. So the first poll is really around, okay, what is the average willingness of French market to actually buy from a different country? So do you think that French are more inclined to buy from different European websites or less inclined than the European average? And I will give you the answer immediately. So actually they're more. So compared to the European average, about 40%, 46%, what you see here in orange, of people are buying from outside of their own country on other European websites. So this is very specifically targeted to this statistics. And the French are actually at 50%. So which means that compared to other countries, if you as a foreign country, like from the Netherlands, want to start something in another country in Europe, typically in French, you probably would have a higher success rate than in Germany. But of course, this is a generic statistic. Now, on the B2B side, the market is a lot bigger, right? It's still 6 to 7 times B2C. However, a big piece of the B2B market is actually EDI, so electronic data interchange. So 24% of total commerce, and that you have to look at revenue of companies, is actually running through electronic, so e-commerce and EDI. So that's about 22% for companies that are over 50 employees and 31% for companies between 10 and 49 employees. So smaller companies will have a higher percentage that they will buy online than larger companies. However, and a very interesting statistic, and the number is a little bit different here, is how much actually is bought in Europe over websites versus EDI. So if you actually look at the overall average, France actually maps against the EU that about of this total 22% of companies that are more and bigger than 10 employees, only 4% of up to 4%. So that is actually about 1/4 goes through e-commerce sites, and 15% goes through electronic data exchange. So even then, if you compare France to anywhere else in Europe, the willingness to buy through dematerialized in a non-material way and dematerialized way is higher than anywhere else. So I would like to welcome now our speakers for today, and actually you have to read it from the right to left. We'll start with Alban Coural, who is a partner at Carlara, and they have actually accompanied the Bijenkof to come to France, and Alban will actually speak of a little bit, the framework and the different elements that you have to take into account in order to know and when you do e-commerce in France. Then we'll move to the Bijenkof, and then we'll go to booking.com, and at the end we'll do Q&A. If you have specific questions, my question to you is make sure that you address this to the right person. So if you have a question for Alban, please address it to Alban. If you have a question to the Bijenkof, please address it to Barbara or Cedric. And if you have a question for booking, please provide it to Inge so we can help you getting your questions answered. And there we go. Go ahead, Alban.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, thank you, Martin. Hi, everybody. I think I'm on live now. First, I'd like to say a few words to congratulate the NLBC for the amazing job it has been done over the past month. I believe that we'll all benefit from the quite extensive energy that the NLBC crew put in this project. So now let's move on to our presentation. So I believe now, yes, I believe now you can see our presentation dealing about e-commerce in France. So thanks to Martin, you now have a lot of data and figures, so I won't tell much than what he told you. But I would say only that thanks to or due to the COVID, sorry. Okay, I see that you cannot see apparently the presentation. So can you see it now? I'm sorry for that. Apparently there is a slight delay between the sound and the slide I'm putting on screen. So what I was saying a bit before is that I won't come back to the data, but I will tell only that as a result of the COVID, obviously, local marketplaces in France grew a lot, from around a dozen to 100 or so in 2020, meaning that actually this is a very suitable market nowadays. So when dealing about B2c sales in France, the very first thing you need to know as a professional seller is that the rule governing the sales with the consumers are pretty different from the one that are governing a sale with another professional client. As you may well be aware, as to B2B, it's free will. The general terms and conditions of the sellers, obviously, are the rule governing the contract, and should you sell as a Dutch seller to a professional in France, you'd be able to use your regular conditions of sale governed by the Dutch law. And in case of a dispute, well, you could choose to the Dutch court to have jurisdiction. However, with French consumer, it's pretty different because, first of all, you need to have a condition of sales drafted in French first. Also, second, those conditions of sales would need to be governed by French law. And we do know that French consumer law is rather different from the Dutch consumer law. And also, in case of disputes, well, French courts will have jurisdiction. And there's no way you can change those three rules. So first, conditions of sales drafted in French, governed by French law, and last, French courts will have jurisdiction. Now, the idea of this quick presentation is to give you points on very important issues as to B2C sales in France. So we'll go from the setting up of the website to the, not foreseen, but possible dispute with a consumer in France. So as to the website, nothing new. Well, the GDPR applies in France. The only difference is that the controller, so the controller is the person appointed by the seller should there be an issue, a problem as to data privacy. So the person to be contacted by a French consumer must be able to speak French. Also, another difference that may arise from France compared to the Netherlands as to cookies and trackers. The French authorities, the CNIL, just said that the leniency period as to control and sanctions will end on March 31st. So this is next week. So be sure that you'll be able to comply with GDPR by the beginning of April. As to the main differences between a French website and a Dutch one, as I said, first, you have to provide French consumers GTCs, meaning that those GTCs must be easily accessible on your French website, and they have to be drafted in French. Sorry to repeat that once again, but actually, we know that it is a problem that we see quite oftenly. Also, a pretty interesting difference between a Dutch and a French website. This is the legal types, where you have to point out the contact details of your company. So the postal address of the head office, for example, your phone number, and an email as well. As I said, the GTCs must have to be drafted in French. Also, the entire website would have to be drafted in French because, well, in France, you do know, we only speak French, so that's the way it is. As to the domain name extension, also an interesting point. You can choose either to have a domain name finishing by .fr, it's possible, or a .com. In that latter case, we recommend to have a .com /fr, just to make sure that you have a French page. An interesting point in France, it's about the price reduction, because French consumers are very keen on price reduction. I think all consumers are, but in France, it's very much the case. We have three ways to, or when selling to French consumer, you'd have three options as to price reduction. The most common one is the sales. It's highly regulated. It's only twice a year, usually on January and in July. And if you're not in these two periods of time, i.e. January or July, you then have two other options, either to sell your product as to promotion in order to boost sales. There is no period in the year when you can sell your products in promotion, but you have to make sure that the promotion period will be in a reasonable time frame, meaning not more than a couple of weeks. There's another way, a last way to sell your products. Should you'd like to sell past season stocks and only past season stock, well, this is the out of stock sale, namely usually outlets. A very important point now, and it's read in our presentation, it's about the reference price. When you sell a product at a fraction of its original price, you have to make sure that you indicate the reference price. The reference price in France is the lowest price of the products during the last period of 30 days. If you do not comply with this rule, you may face a very high sanction. And believe me when I say that the French authorities are looking over the internet quite regularly, if not daily. Let's take a step forward now and about the conclusion of the contract. I believe that half of what I'll be saying now is well known to you because the double-click obligation is, let's say, worldwide. So just a few words for the ones who do not know what is the double-click. Actually, when a consumer wants to place an order, he has to do so respecting a double-step system. The first, clicking to say, I want to place this order, and the second step is, I confirm I want to place this order. A rule which is pretty different in France from the Netherlands, I assume, is the obligation for the seller to deliver the products ordered by the consumer within a time frame of 30 days. After 30 days, the French consumer will be able to cancel with no fee the order. So make sure you will respect, you will comply with this rule that cannot be changed, by the way, in your conditions of sale. As to the cancellation of order, we have to mention the right of withdrawal. So you will see in this chart that actually French consumers are very keen on using their right of withdrawal, so their right to cancel with no reason their order. But actually you can see as well that though the number is quite high in France, actually it's lower than in the Netherlands. So I believe that when dealing with your with your Dutch consumer, you're used anyway to this right of withdrawal. In France, the time frame to withdraw for allowed to or granted to French consumer is 14 calendar days. So make sure that in your conditions of sale, you provide such a delay to French consumer. Obviously, you can grant a higher period of time, and actually, regularly in France, we see a 30-day calendar days granted to French consumer to be able to withdraw their order. Now, let's turn on to a little bit more legal points. which are the legal warranties. There's nothing new, I assume, from this perspective, because, well, thanks to the legacy of the Napoleon Code, we share in France and in the Netherlands the same type of warranty. The first one is, well, when a French consumer orders a product, it has to be conform to what is expected. So, for example, when you order a LED lamp, a white LED lamp, well, you should receive this LED lamp. The second warranty is the one of the hidden defects. And the idea is that the product order should be fit for the use for which it was intended. Someone just told me that we are running out of time, so I'll try to be quicker, but as pedagogic as can be. So as to the circular economy, which is a major issue, I know in Netherlands and in France. Actually, you're in the Netherlands, you're a bit ahead of France in this area. So I believe that you know the principle, but we have some rather different rules applying in France. So you can see in this chart, the principle is the same. Well, we have to take care of the waste and to make sure that we'll have less waste as possible. And one of the way we found in France in a quite a recent law that is evolving as of today. Actually, as I am speaking, sorry, we know that the law is evolving. I'll tell you a little bit more in a few seconds. So the main, let's say, rule or obligation that you will have to comply with on your website while selling products in France is that you'll have to be or to provide consumer with the best possible information on the availability of spare parts. I'm sorry, I cannot be more accurate than that, because that's actually the translation of the law. So what you have to do, thanks to the manufacturers, you'd have to provide as much as possible information on spare parts and their availability. Depending on the nature of the product, you'd have to make sure that such spare parts of the products you're selling are available. So, for example, for certain appliances, it's at least 5 years. And as I said a little bit before, French regulation is now evolving, and we just received a note from our economic minister saying that they will issue some particular rules on specific products as to the availability of spare parts. So maybe it will be a good reason for us to, thanks to the NLBC, to send you a comprehensive note on this point. Well, as you do know, when you speak about contractual relationship between a seller and a buyer, whether professional or consumer, at some point you may face dispute. Well, as I said before, French law would apply as to B2C's relationship in France. French court would have jurisdiction, but before that, you'd have to make sure that you'd provide your consumers with a possible mediation before a possible judiciary litigation. So to do that, you'd have to comply with several rules. First, you'd have to make it crystal clear on your website, for example, in your condition of sales, that mediation is possible while giving the details to the Ombudsman that you would have joined prior every sale. It is very important So just a quick word about Ombudsman. Obviously, depending on the sector you're in, the Ombudsman will be different. So, for example, if you're selling clothes, it will be pretty different than if you're selling, for example, electronical or equipments. The main idea, you understood, is to make sure that you provide your consumers with a possible to solve any dispute thanks to an amicable resolution system. So just once again, sorry, but do not forget that when selling to French consumer, French courts have jurisdiction, French law is applicable, and you have to provide details and more generally a website drafted in the French language. I believe that that's overall it's. I think I respected the time frame I was allowed to, not at all. So I'll leave the seat and the mic to the Bijenkof, and I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Alban. I realize we actually asked a lot from you, but thank you so much for your legal masterclass, basically. I would like to remind the audience that if you have a question, you can actually, enter it via the chat and also mention Alban's name so we can redirect that at the end. So let's continue with the next speaker. Over 150 years, this luxury department store has shops in the Netherlands, but quite recently they made the move to France. Why? How? Barbara Vogel and Cédric Beris, they will tell you all about it. Welcome, Cédric. Welcome, Barbara, both visible now. Welcome, and the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. So my name is Cédric Beris. I'm responsible for the Belgium and the French market at the Bijenkof, and French market since last year because we expanded to France last year. And we will explain a bit more on how we did that and some tips and tricks which might also be interesting for you. Let me first put the presentation on the screen. There we go. Maybe very quick for the people who are not familiar with the Bijenkof. So we are an omni-channel retailer in the Netherlands with 7 physical stores. We are part of the Selfridges group in London with also some other brands under that group, which you see here. But most interesting is to tell a bit more about our international expansion because we are an omni-channel retailer in the Netherlands. But we expanded also to international countries where we don't have physical stores. And so that means that we are a pure player in the international markets. And to give you some insights, we actually created our web shop in the Netherlands in 2010. So a bit more than 10 years ago, which is not very long if you think about the 150 years history that we have with the Bijenkof. After 5 years of being online, we also expanded to Belgium. And the reason is because a lot of Belgian people already know the Bijenkof and were visiting our physical stores in the Netherlands. So we saw a lot of potential to also enter the Belgian market. And I should actually say the Flemish market of Belgium. And we did that in 2015. We've taken quite a strong start. As we saw that there was not much overlap with local competitors, local competition, which had to do with the brand offering that the portfolio that we have. We've taken quite a strong start in Belgium, and that gave us confidence that we can also be successful in another country without physical stores. And that was also the fundament that the reason why we were looking further than the Belgian border, and we expanded to Germany in 2019. which is a bit more challenging because it's even further away. The market is completely different, but also in Germany, we've been able to take a strong start. And then last year was in full focus for us of adding the French language. And we did that twofold. So we first added French to the Belgium domain. So we were able to also expand to the Wallonian region of Belgium, so the French-speaking region. But of course, the big project was for us to go to France, and we did launch the French website in November last year. And we will tell a bit more now on how we did that, and also sharing some tips and tricks for you. But first, before we do that, if you go to a new market, then it's of course important to know how you will differentiate. What are your unique selling propositions? How do you differentiate versus local competitors? And for us, there are three big pillars in how we do that. And the first one is the assortment. Now, at the Bijenkof, we offer more than 1,000 brands. And 1,000 brands, not only in fashion, but also in multiple categories, such as home and living, such as beauty, cosmetics, but also accessories. So we have a big range of brands and a big range of categories. And we see that also in the international markets, that is something which makes us quite unique, offering such a broad portfolio. In France, a grand magasin. And there are not a lot of players in the world who have this big assortment. So for us, that is something which differentiates us. But also, if we look at the brands and the offering that we have, we see that the brand overlap with international players such as Zalando or the Farfetch, for example, or Galeries Lafayette is only about 30%. And that means that we are also bringing a lot of new brands and a lot of new products to the French market. So it's a bit both ways. So assortment is one. On the other hand, the platform, as we are a web shop international, we don't have physical stores, it's very important to have a really e-commerce driven platform, which has a good conversion. And we do a lot of development in-house on our platform. And we were awarded by Google as having the third best omni-channel platform of Europe, which is, of course, a very nice award for us, but it's also a recognition. And it's also very important for us that we keep investing in our platform to make it really smooth for the visitors and the customers to make a purchase. So platform is very crucial to have a good customer journey. If you have international visitors coming to your site who don't know you yet, you don't want to have obstacles. You want people to have a good first experience. So we invest a lot in the platform, but it goes combined also with service. And service is a broad offering. And for us, that means, on one hand, the logistical part. So we work with Konopost, which is also a local player in the French market. We already have our big players such as DHL or UPS, etc. But it's really important to work also with a local player, local heroes in the market. And for us, that means that we are able to offer a fast delivery to the French consumer. But logistics is only one part of the service. On the other hand, there is also the contact center, because sometimes it can go wrong. A package does not get delivered or gets delayed, and customers are calling the contact center. So what we did is also set up a French-speaking contact center with a partner who has a local team. And we really try to differentiate on these three topics to stand out from the competitors. And for us, these are really the three most important pillars. Now, I will give the word to my colleague, Barbara, who will explain a bit more on how the journey looked like last year and which steps we took to actually go live. So, Barbara, I give the word to you.
Thank you, Cedric. So my name is Barbara Vogel. I'm the head of legal of the Bijenkof. I will not give you a legal story, as we just heard all the ins and outs of the legal requirements in France from Alban. I will just share some facts and figures regarding the building of our web shop in 9 months. So we started, of course, in February 2020 with the website development. First, we translated the website. Of course, we already had our Dutch website, And after the translation, we started with the technical issues and building the French domain. Then we started with the legal documents. We sent out a Q&A to our French lawyer, just to be aware of all the differences between Dutch and French consumer and competition law. Afterwards, we had our legal documents translated. So we had our general terms and conditions translated, our privacy statement, cookie statement, and we sent that to the French lawyer for review. Those documents, of course, went a few times back and forward, but it was also interesting to see that when you were looking at terms and conditions, there are several other points that come across that needed our attention, such as were we planning to deliver in Corsica and Monaco, and what other conditions should we apply if we would like that. Also, we discussed quality labels, such as regarding to the ecosystem or the e-commerce Europe trust mark, and also, for example, the consumer mediation platform TEFAT that Alban already mentioned. So then we also started negotiating with our logistical partners. We had a tender process, and in the end, we decided to go along with Honor. We had 6 months of testing, implementing, seeing how the process works. One other thing which is very important and which is quite easy but takes a little time is to apply for your French VAT number. It took us around 6 months, so start early with that. Then let me see, yes, we also, of course, needed to think about our customer service. And as Cedric mentioned, now we have a bilingual team hosted with our partner, which we already work with in the Netherlands. We, well, for now chose to work with this bilingual team, but our ambition is to have a native speaker team located somewhere in France. But, well, that's for the near future, probably. We also needed to think about payment methods in France, which are a little different than in the Netherlands, but that could be facilitated easily by our partner Agen. So they took care of that for us and didn't take a lot of work for us. Then, well, it was almost time to start operating the website, but obviously you need to test and optimize the website. So we started with that around October of last year, I think. So you test the customer journey, the order process, the delivery process. We had some colleagues with family and friends in France, so they could run test orders and see if the parcels were delivered in the agreed time frame, and of course, if all the parcels were delivered in one piece, which is very important. And then we had a launch of the website. So we had a soft launch, and the soft launch is, well, basically means without any promotional activities. You just start with the website and see how it goes and see if it runs smoothly. And after 2 weeks, we started with our promotional campaigns, which was mainly online marketing campaigns, etc. And also we thought about differentiating our marketing campaigns in the Netherlands from France. So in France, we add some local elements there to make a difference. And also the French market is, of course, a little different from the Dutch. So we have a 5 FTE team for France, which is really dedicated. And they're mainly focused on logistics, content, marketing, and they are part of a 30 FTE team for e-commerce international. But we have also a 150-person e-commerce team. Apologies. So I think that's about it around our facts and figures. Of course, we've done a lot more than that, but I think these are the most important things to take into account when starting your online journey in France. So thank you, and back to you, Cedric.
Yeah, thanks, Barbara. So as you can see, it's quite a journey that we took in 9 months, where good planning and timing is very crucial. But then you go live, and of course you make the nicest plans, but you only know how it works once you're live and once visitors are starting to come on the site. And we also saw that the assumptions are not always correct, because we expected maybe more people to visit our platform on the border versus Belgium, where in Belgium you're already a big player. But you see here that visitors are actually coming from all across France. So it doesn't matter where there is already some awareness. As you are launching a platform in an e-commerce site, which you are targeting mainly via online marketing channels, such as Google advertisement, but also social media, also YouTube video, etc. Well, you're able to reach an audience across France. And for us, it's really interesting to see that, of course, the most visitors are coming from the Paris region. But even in the south of France, we have a lot of customers today. So for us, yeah, we really took a nice start. It's good to see that it's not located or clustered around some big cities, but it's really across France, as well as on the countryside. But it doesn't end there. We are now live for 5 months, and we recently did a user experience research where we sat together with French customers. We went through the site, and we also noticed where there are still obstacles on the site. So some obstacles which we are now going to remove with a goal to increase conversion. And for us, continuously optimizing the site, continuously doing tests, A/B testing, optimizing is really an important process. So it doesn't really stop with just launching the site and seeing visitors come in. No, for us, it's a continuous process. And that's also what we will be doing in the near future. So, seeing the time frame, I could spend an hour talking about the steps we took and give you some more details, but I think we tried to give you a short summary of some highlights and maybe some tips and tricks you have to keep in mind. Should you have any questions, just use the chat, and then at the end we will have some time to answer them again. So, thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Cedric. Thank you, Barbara, for your testimony. I think we can all agree that there is no golden recipe for business development or changing suddenly to a different country. And it's more a matter of taking steps and feedback and, take it slow. I would like to invite the next speaker here on stage, and that's Inge Jansen. She is Head of Public Affairs at Booking.com. Welcome, Inge. Am I correct to assume that you're going to talk about the way Booking keeps on innovating and share a little bit of light on how Booking is adapting to the French market?
Exactly, indeed. Good morning, everyone. And first of all, thank you so much for the invitation to the seminar to the Netherlands Business Council. I really enjoyed the previous presentations, and I look forward to telling you a little bit more about our strategy and the way we localized our offers as well. So let me share my there we are. Yes, it should be visible now. So let me start by telling you a little bit more about Booking.com, because of course we're an established company today, but rewind exactly 25 years ago to 1996. That was pre-Google, almost pre-internet, we like to say. The company was founded by Geert-Jan Bruinsma in Enschede, initially with the name Bookings.nl. In these days, hotels did not have their own websites, so this was really a revolution in hospitality and had a lot of challenges. We started by manually scanning printed photos of hotels to get pictures online. The availability was sent to us by fax, by the accommodations, and then we had to manually update it in our system, as many properties, of course, did not have internet access yet. By 1999, our company expanded to a headcount of 2, and in 2004, the company hired its first dedicated dedicated customer service employee. And after that, it went fast. Flash forward to today, we have 5,000 people in Amsterdam at our headquarters. And early 2020, we had over 17,000 people worldwide and 29 million listings. Due to COVID this year, we reduced the headcount a little bit worldwide, but it was 17,000 early 2020. If we go to the next slide, from the one single office starting in 1996, we have grown today to over 200 offices across the globe, including 18 Booking.com dedicated customer service centers, taking calls around the clock from across the globe in 42 languages. We have currently 6 offices in France, Paris, Bordeaux, Nice, Rennes, Strasbourg, Lyon, and 1 dedicated customer service center in Tourcoing. Because Amsterdam has been our home from day one, international expansion was inevitable. The Netherlands, as a small country, of course, meant that Booking, with its international outlook on the tourism sector, needed to quickly look abroad in order to grow. We had our website in English from day one. In fact, American guests were one of our key target audiences because they were more present on the internet. And in the early days, already 30% of our bookings came from the US. Today, the priority is to be present where our partners and customers are, so we can service them in their preferred language and on their own time zone. That's why we open offices locally, so we're present in the market to get to know the market, the travel behavior there, hire local people who can support our local accommodation partners and provide the best possible advice, and of course also to know the local circumstances we have to operate in. I'll show you very fast the evolution of our website throughout the years. This is our front end in 2000, so still very one-dimensional, like many websites in those days. This is what we looked like in 2006, and today this is what our front end looks like. So lots of evolution, and the core to our concept is also innovating fast. In order to be successful, we need to constantly innovate, and we do that in a data-driven way. We believe in gathering data from our consumers and not innovate based on opinions, but really focus on the data and statistically reliable results. When we can't measure an impact, we take away the change again. It's that simple. At the core of our innovation is A/B testing. We test because you can't predict what a customer wants. So we always keep changing one particular element from very small to very big and roll it out for one variant of our traffic. For example, the color of a button, the wording of a sentence, but even the logo. We keep testing which version of the website works best, and then choose and innovate for the one that wins. At any given moment, we have thousands of tests online on our website. As I said, from very small to very big changes. So there's nothing static what we do about at Booking.com, which is also why the website keeps innovating and changing. It's a living, breathing, ever-evolving organism that constantly needs to be reinvented to serve the customer best. If I move forward, personalization is increasingly needed to have a successful e-commerce strategy. Today, we see increasing demands for customers to personalize the demand. One size no longer fits all. Almost every detail on our website, as you can see on this slide, is personalized these days. Not just the ranking, but also which other elements you see on the website. And lots of this is also influenced by machine learning. We know from research that customers only spend an average of 30 seconds on the search page. So we really need to make that content as relevant and appealing as possible. And then if I move to the impact of reviews, which is probably quite relevant for this audience in particular, let's zoom in on the impact of having reviews on your website. We can see at this heat map that the core of the customer attention is the most viewed part of this page is the rating and the reviews. So that really shows the importance of having a rating out there and being visible with customer reviews. The impact of online reviews and ratings should not be underestimated, because 91% of consumers, as you can see on this slide, consult online reviews for making a purchase, and 55% of French people have used the internet to post reviews of companies. Why is that? What we see in our data and also in recent research is that social proof drives purchases. So as humans, we're most likely to make a purchase if others around us, even total strangers, agree that this is a good decision. Today, online reviews are the biggest source of social proof. Data shows that reviews lead to increased revenue and drive up conversion, and they have a clear impact on sales. And they're increasingly essential to decision-making by consumers. Also, an element that shouldn't be underestimated in your marketing strategy is that reviews make you more visible. If you work on your search engine optimization, fresh content is extremely important. And in many of the search engines, they look at fresh content, keeping your brand favored by algorithms if you constantly have new reviews on the website. This slide focuses on how important it is also to engage with negative reviews, because 82% of those who read online reviews specifically seek out negative reviews. And 71% of our customers consider negative reviews more useful than positive reviews. That works both ways. Not only are they the most read, but consumers also find them the most reliable. If you find a website with only positive reviews, consumers tend to think that that is not a reliable website, and probably they don't get to see the full picture. 85% of users spend 5 times as long on sites when interacting with negative reviews, which is then results in an increase of conversion rate. So it's very important not to remove negative reviews, because they add to the reliability and the trustworthiness of the data on your website. And everybody knows that there will be a couple of negative reviews for every single product and on every single website, but it is important to engage with them. So do not leave them unanswered. We do see that customers spend 5 times more time on the website after reading a negative review. So it's also very important that they see how the supplier, the store, responded to that negative review, how they solved the problem, and that can really increase consumer engagement and conversion rate, even though it's counterintuitive. So I want to spend the last couple of minutes of my presentation talking about the differences between France and the Netherlands when rolling out a website or when being present as an e-commerce shop. There are a lot of legislative differences between France and the Netherlands that are important to note. Despite all the efforts of the European Union to come to a single digital market, a lot of national differences remain, and that is particularly the case, we find, for France. The French have a very activist approach to digital regulation and have a lot more restrictive e-commerce and competition rules than many other member states in Europe. A couple of examples that we have come across are the Loi Macron, the Loi Le Maire, wide-ranging data sharing obligations, some specificities of the GDPR that the first speaker also already discussed. STR regulation, in our case, very important, so short-term rentals, digital service tax, so additional taxation for digital companies in France. Important to note is also that legislative changes in France are often more frequent than in the Netherlands. One example that I always like to mention is that STR regulation in France has changed 4 times in the last 3 years. And every single time you need to make yourself aware of the changed regulation, update the product, see where you need to adapt. So we regularly have to adapt and update our GDTs and our front end in France. And that's literally adding hover-overs or pop-ups on the websites that do not exist in other markets in Europe because of legislative obligations to further clarify, for example, the ranking or certain promotional activities on the website. So we always have, when doing a new product rollout or a policy change or a new GDT, we always have standard checks in place, particularly in France, to make sure we are compliant with the local law. So one advice for people rolling out their presence to France is to really have either local presence or seek local legal advice, because it's important when you do business in France to understand the local specificities, and France has a stronger need for localization than many other markets in Europe, we find. And then another element that's maybe good to touch upon, and that lots of people are aware of, is that there are a number of cultural differences. It's a bit of a cliche, but it's true. The Dutch tend to be more direct in their interactions, when French will focus on a more diplomatic approach. That also shows in data and all kinds of research. What that means concretely for booking, we always draft communications in the Netherlands at our headquarters that are then sent to all the different partners in the different markets. We have found throughout the years that if you only translate whatever you draft in the Netherlands, it doesn't always come across in the right way in France. So an important advice is to have your communications not only translated, but also proofread and localized to make sure it doesn't come across as too direct or even rude in the French local context. So that's really something where the local colleagues always really help us by proofreading all the communications that we do. And then last but not least, there are also differences in consumer behavior. Our data shows that both Dutch and French citizens are amongst the most likely nationalities to leave a review. So there's a very active review culture, which is a good thing because it's very important to drive conversion, to get trust in your product. But at the same time, the French leave on average more negative reviews and significantly lower ratings than other nationalities worldwide. So our data, if we look at French hotels or hotels in general, French customers always leave lower reviews than others based on the same product and the same service. So that's really something to be aware of, that these kinds of local cultural differences can also impact something very simple as review scores. So those were the main things I wanted to share with you. Thank you, and I hope you found it interesting.
Thank you so much, Inge, for your presentation. Very interesting to see how Booking is actually interacting with its customers. It's time for a Q&A. Let me check the clock because we have a couple of minutes left. So we're going to do a very quick Q&A. Just for the people that would need to continue to their next meeting, we will actually publish a recording of the webinar of today together with the presentations on our website. So let's see what kind of questions we received. Alban, let's start with you. Astrid actually asked the question, the right to withdraw within 14 days. Does this also apply for reservations of holiday rental? And when does these 14 days start? Is that after the first payment?
Okay, so first question, no, it does not apply. The right of withdrawal during 14 days does not apply to holiday rental. Actually, this is an exemption to the principle. At least the French Consumer Code says so. And the beginning is the moment of the payment. So the moment when you conclude the contract. So, for example, as to sell over the internet, it's the moment when you double click actually and you place the order. No?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Let's move.
Actually, no. Actually, no. Actually, no. My right here just told me that actually, no, it's at the moment when you receive the product, obviously, which is more clever, actually. Yeah.
Okay.
So the time frame, the 14 days period starts when you receive the product. Actually, that makes sense because, as I said, you can deliver as a seller your product within 30 days. So obviously, if I was completely wrong. So at the time of the when you receive the product.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Let's move on to the next question, and this one is for Cedric. The web shop, is that with Magento? Is it Miracle or is it own development? And that's a question of Frederik Stemers.
Yes, we don't use an out-of-the-box solution. So with the Bijenkof, we launched our first web shop more than 10 years ago, and it's actually a custom-built platform at the moment. So we do all development in-house, and it's something which we kept on building throughout the past years. So not an out-of-the-box solution, no, indeed, custom built.
Okay, and how do you approach? So how do you approach building the brand awareness in the French market? Do you have a specific approach for that? And that is a question of Peter Paul.
Yeah, so we actually have a marketing strategy per country based on the maturity phase where the country is in. And that means in Belgium, we are now active for more than 5 years. We are not anymore a startup in the country, but more like a scale-up. And we also have adjusted marketing plans for that. And what we typically do is if we enter a new country where the brand awareness is close to zero, you could say, we try to focus more on the digital channels in the beginning. So also more the performance channels, such as Google advertising, affiliate marketing, social media, YouTube. And gradually, as your customer base becomes bigger, also if your business becomes more profitable, there's also more room to invest in the broader marketing campaigns, such as radio, such as TV, for example. So for us, it's really first to focus on the performance channels, and then gradually also, try to invest more in the more traditional media.
Okay, thank you. I have a next question that is for Barbara. What online payment options are popular in France, and which one is the Bijenkof using?
Very good question, but I'm not really sure if I'm the right person to answer that question, so I will pass this one on to Cédric.
No problem.
Yes, so we noticed that in France, everything works with carte bancaire. And some countries in the Netherlands, you have Ideal. In France or in Belgium, you have Bankcontact. And in France, it's carte bancaire, which makes it quite easy to integrate. For us, it was quite simple because we work with one payment partner who offers all the different payment solutions, such as PayPal, credit cards, etc. And that made it quite easy to just activate the local payment methods. So if you are already live with an online business in the Netherlands, then it's very probable that your payment partner, can activate the payment solutions for France as well.
Right. Okay.
Just a few words to concur. Visa and MasterCard are the most common credit card in France. Also, PayPal proved itself to be quite popular in France as well, as Cédric said.
Thank you, Alban. Let's keep an eye on the clock. It's 2 minutes past, so I would like to ask my last question to Inge. Inge, is the website Booking.com locally adapted as well?
Yes, parts of it are. So in principle, there's no single website. As I presented, the website is personalized based on personal preferences. So that's independent of the market. But because of local regulations and local specific demands that we have to localize the website. For example, I mentioned the example of the Hoover over boxes, certain pop-ups, certain additional information that we need to show, adapting the GDT. So those are the local elements of the website. But we do not have a specific entirely different products or marketing for France. It's more like based on the legal regulations that leads to local adaptations.
Right, okay. That is that then for today. Thank you all to our speakers. Thank you, Alban of law firm Carlara for the legal masterclass. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Cédric, for your testimony. And thank you, Inge, for showing how you interact with our customers. So thank you. Just a few last words. There will be the recording of the presentation of the webinar today will be published on our website together with the presentations of the speakers. We have dealt with a few questions. I'm not sure if I got them all, but these questions together with the answers will also be published on the same website, and that link will be shared right now in the chat. Let's take a tiny step forward, because at the end of April, we're actually organizing our next webinar, which is going to be how to participate to tenders in France. We're going to organize this together with Shell, together with law firm Carlara, and together with Van Hoeven CS. And Van Hoeven CS is the architectural firm who won the tender to design the swimming pool for the Olympic Games in 2024 in Paris. So all of these events will, of course, be shared on our website, will also be shared on LinkedIn. If you have any questions about the content of today, or if you would like to know more about the work of the Netherlands Business Council, please send me a message to az@nlbc.fr, and my email will also be shared in the chat. So once again, I thank you all, and I'm looking forward to see you soon.